close by to the Cascades Manor all this weekend. The president of the Jackson Civil War Society and the Civil War Muster, Maurice Imhoff. Hi, Maurice.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How's it going?
I'm doing all right. I had a little rundown. It's muster week, but we're pushing through it.
Well, the weather forecast looks like it's going to be absolutely perfect for both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I was a little worried because last year we had great weather from set up to tear down, and the next day we had a brutal storm. Trees came down. We were happy we all were gone. So I was worried that we wouldn't get the same luck this year, but it's looking like we're going to have a good weekend. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the timing of the calendar, it's a good thing it's not tomorrow. And with all those heavy wall, and you being a reenactor yourself, that's a real challenge to participate as a reenactor with all of that authentic gear.
Yes, it's a lot of equipment. I mean, you start with a cotton shirt, and then you add the wool coat over it with the lining inside, the wool pants, and then on top of that, you add your accoutrements to it that are all leather and your cap, and it gets pretty toasty pretty fast, especially when you're marching a great distance.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, there was no nice hotel with shower for the soldiers. So let's talk about the numbers. First of all, how many years have we had a Civil War muster?
Yeah, so we have had 36 years of the Civil War muster. It originally started in Mason. I just learned the number of how many years that it was in Mason before it moved to Jackson, but now I don't remember it, of course. But started in Mason and then outgrew that location, and they decided to bring it down here into Jackson at the Cascades Park. So after taking some time off for the few years there, it's now returned last year for its 35th year, and now we are on to a 36th year after a great return last year.
Wow. And as far as reenactors, how many are you expecting to participate?
Yeah, last year we got around 500 reenactors, which is huge because even when an event cancels for 1 year, it's done. It's a wrap. People find other places to go. But reenactors find that they can spend that weekend on the lake with their family and such. But we were able to bring it back and bring back quite a few reenactors. We are seeing an uptick in registration numbers for this year. So we're expecting around 600 reenactors, which is really good. We won't quite ever again see the numbers that you saw in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they really just jam-packed the park because the reenactors don't exist in those numbers anymore across the entire country.
And as far as numbers of guests, we've had upwards of 20 to 30,000 people.
Yep, we did pretty good last year, and then now we're hoping to increase those numbers again, even more this year, and see if we can really hit back those original numbers of 25,000 people all at the park in just 2 days. It's quite a bit.
Yeah. And the most surprising number of all is the cost of admission.
Yeah, absolutely free. So thanks to our incredible sponsors such as Trips Auto Shop and Collision Center here in Jackson, the event is completely free to the public, which means the second you park to the second you get to all the way to the battlefield and back, unless you're stopping at food and snacks, etc., it is all free.
So there will be opportunities to spend money. So be sure bring some cash because you'll have vendors, food vendors, merchandise. There's a whole shopping area.
Yeah, so we did a vendor call, and we got great feedback from the community. So we were able to get quite a bit more merchandise vendors there, which were very modern items. But then we also have our historic Civil War sutlers. So these are like your vendors that you see on a day-to-day basis, but they're Civil War. They're selling reproduction Civil War uniforms, hats, blankets, but they also have different other clothing items as well, toys for kids. It's a really unique piece to see. So whether you're looking for something for yourself to keep as a display item, or if you are looking to join as a reenactor, it's your one-stop shop right there to an 1860s merchandise tent. But then we also have the merch tent for the muster, which this year we'll have more t-shirts again and Civil War programs. And this year we kind of went fancy with our t-shirts. We have the Civil War logo in the front, and then the cool Civil War poster for this year's muster on the back with the horse and such on it. So we're excited
the poster, in fact, we've got it, we'll put it up here on screen.
Yes.
It looks like something that would have been printed back in the 1860s.
Absolutely, yeah. We worked with an incredible artist who's actually not from the United States, he's from the UK. He put that together for us here in Jackson, and he does a really great job with that. So we're excited to put that onto the back of a t-shirt this year.
The longest running Civil War event in the Midwest and includes battles. So we've got 2 days of activities. Let's run through both Saturday and Sunday the lineup.
Yeah, so beginning Saturday morning, we open right up at 9 a.m. to the public. We'll open up at 9 a.m. You can walk in, see reenactors who are still getting ready for the morning in some cases. They'll learn what life was like for the morning for the soldiers, see them get their equipment around, but also for the civilians. They need to get water, they need to get firewood, and you can watch them construct all that, make it happen. And then we have a speaker at 10 a.m. Who will be speaking on civilian life and farming during the Civil War. And then we'll have a performance by the Camp Chase Fife and Drum Corps, which we're very excited to have them back this year. Last year they were a really big hit, and to be able to add them again this year, we're super excited.
Yeah,
about
they were awesome. They attracted it as soon as they started playing. The crowds descended.
Yep, it's really cool, and it takes you right back to the period. So instead of having modern music, to be able to have historic fife and drum music, it really takes you back to that period.
Now, will they be on the Rotary Band Shell?
Yep, they'll be back on the band shell again. We did add some music over into the vendor area this year. So we'll have the Docks, I'm not going to say it right, Dodds Horn. They're a brass band, 1800s brass band that's going to be performing. And then the Dixieland French Quarter Band will be there on Sunday, and they're from the Jackson area as well. So we're very excited to have them. On Sunday, on Saturday, we'll have the battle at 2 o'clock. Prior to that will be cavalry demonstrations out on the battlefield. And then we, as I kind of mentioned before, we don't do historical battles anymore because we don't have the numbers. This year's theme, the general theme to where the time period you should be taken into, is the 26th Michigan at the Battle of Sailors Creek. But we can't quite do the Battle of Sailors Creek itself and publicize it as that because that battle had several thousand individuals.
Well, so, I know authenticity is very important to this event, and so you are staging what is a reasonable facsimile to what a Civil War battle might have looked like.
Right. So we have a lot of people who just kind of really don't have, any concept of what life was like in fighting during the Civil War battle. I mean, you think World War II, modern war, you run around, you're blasting shells, all that stuff. That is not how it happened, during the American Civil War. We want to demonstrate, how did that look? When you get a musket that fires, 3 shots a minute and you have to reload every single time, how were there such mass casualties during the war? We want to show, well, because in order to have a machine gun effect like today, they had to fight in these lines. So when you take one musket and another one, they're all lined up together, then it's almost like a machine gun going all together. So we want to be able to show, how were these tactics fought, the flanking maneuvers and such.
And they synchronized their shots to reflect that type of action, right?
Yep. So they have various drills that they do before the battle, so to learn the motions, learn all the actions. They go out there and they do a pretty good job at it. And then, there are no real bullets being fired on the battlefield at all. They are real muskets, but they only use black powder in them, so no one is getting harmed. And the same thing goes for the cannons. While they rock the entire city at times, they're not firing any live ammunition.
No cannonballs are flying out. All right, so Saturday night you've got something special.
Yes.
And that is an all-American military ball. Now, what's that?
Yeah, so many years ago, before my time, the Jackson Civil War Muster used to hold its grand ball at the Cascade Falls. And then through that, they ended up moving it to the driving range. So this year we said, what can we do? How can we reevaluate this? So we decided to bring it back to the Cascade Falls, and this was something we found a lot of people were really excited for. Because, what a better backdrop to a ball than to have the beautiful falls in the background. And we talked with the Parks Department about having it be red, white, and blue during the ball and such. So, starting at 7 p.m., we are going to have the ball, everyone get together for the grand ball, and it should be pretty nice. We did have a slight change. There will not be any fireworks this year, but instead we will have the artillery night firing return during that time. So at 9:30, similar to previous years, we will have the artillery night firing back on the battlefield. So the ball time was moved back to 7. So we had a slight change last minute, but we persevere, move through it, and we're super excited about it. It should be pretty good.
So don't try to put the kids to bed early on Saturday. It won't work.
Yeah, it'll be a little noisy, but I mean that's also a really cool chance to see. I mean, during the day you can't see how far the flames go, and we do have to say we make sure we're safe. There are safety barriers that are on the battlefield. A lot of people don't notice them, but those flames from those cannons, I mean, they reach out almost 40 yards, 50 yards. During the night, you see just how far those flames really go.
It is quite a show. All right, so Sunday, the other battle and
Yes.
all the vendors will be there. You've got a special coffee wagon
Yes.
coming back.
Yep, so all the way back from the East Coast, we have the United States Christian Commission, who will be bringing their 1860s reproduction coffee wagon. And it was a big hit last year. They ran out of coffee.
I know. I got there just as they ran out of their
Yeah.
authentic coffee, and they switched over to Folgers.
Oh.
It was fine.
So we'll find a way to make sure you do get some this year. But they're going to be back this year. They're going to be in town tomorrow, so I'm going to go help them set up. And they're going to spend the whole weekend here in town, and we're super excited to be able to have them. I think we also have an ambulance wagon that's coming into town as well from the Chicago area. So I have to double check on that, but I believe they're coming as well. So it's pretty neat.
You've also got opportunities to donate. There will be ample opportunities to make donations if you'd like as you visit the grounds. Where do people park?
Yeah, so the parking is typically always by Frost, or what is now the JSIST, well, whichever, the Frost School.
ISD Central
Yes,
Campus.
yep.
Yeah.
So that is the general parking area for the public. There's also a variety of parking options along the park there on various side roads as well. But we encourage people to go park by the Frost School. That's our public parking area, and then walk, visit the merchandise vendors over there, the food trucks. We have way more food trucks than last year, so we have quite a variety. I should note publicly again that the root beer will not be there this year. They had a prior commitment, but they are going to be back for next year's event, which is super exciting. So we have to go one more year without a root beer, and they'll be back next year.
But other beverages will be available. And how about the kettle corn?
We do have kettle corn this year,
There you go.
so we're improving. We're making some groundwork.
So a couple things that I wanted to ask you about, because people are wondering why a Civil War muster, why a reenactment in Jackson, Michigan. There were no battles of the Civil War fought in Michigan.
Right.
But what's important about Michigan, its connection to the Civil War?
Yeah, so Michigan sent 90,000 troops to go fight in this conflict. And to me, really thinking about that, 15,000 of those boys, these were boys, did not make it back home. And a lot of them from Jackson as well, did not make it back home. It's important that we tell their story, tell the acts of bravery that took place on these battlefields under the flags that were given by the wives and the mothers and the sisters of these communities. We want to be able to tell their stories. And no, while there was no battles that were fought in Jackson, Jackson was the hub for the Civil War with the governor at the time, Austin Blair, living here. 22,000 troops alone passed through Jackson at Camp Blair, going off to fight. Many of these soldiers had came through Jackson and said goodbye to their loved ones.
Some in this very building.
Yep, the Jackson Grays met here before they went off to fight, and that's where that famous quote from Abraham Lincoln comes from, "Thank God for Michigan." Michigan was the first Western regiment of 1,000 soldiers to arrive in Washington, D.C. After the call for troops from Abraham Lincoln. So Jackson had a tremendous input during the Civil War here in Michigan with all the different troops going out and equipment. So here is a great place to be able to tell that story of all that happened here in Jackson during the conflict, and that's why I feel that Jackson is a great place to host the Civil War muster.
And it wouldn't be a Civil War without President Abraham Lincoln and Confederate President Jefferson Davis. They'll be here too.
Both be here, and they will both be talking on Sunday. They'll both be there both days, but they will be on stage giving a talk at the close of the muster at 3 p.m. on Sunday.
All right. Anything else people need to know?
Well, like I said, give a big thank you again to Tripp's Auto Shop for making it free to everyone, being able to have that. And I encourage, if you have not been before, come by the ball and check it out this Saturday night at 7 p.m. It'll be a great, great event, and everyone is welcome to partake. They do teach the dances ahead of time, so you don't have to know how to dance in the 1860s fashion. They do teach how to dance prior to that.
Cool. Well, I know you and all your volunteers have done a ton of work getting this ready for the weekend. Thanks for all that you're doing for that, and thanks for coming in today.
Of course. Thank you.
If you missed anything or want to know more, you can visit the website, Civil War, what is it called?
Muster.org.
CivilWarMuster.org. Thanks to Maurice Imhoff. Up next on JTV, we're